All right, welcome back, traders. Hopefully, you had a wonderful week, wonderful weekend. All right, well, let's cover the markets here. Tether's still looking kind of strong, unfortunately, at this very moment in time. It looks like you can't seem to break the bottom of this range on Tether. We're looking at non-log scale chart here. We can see that the weekly is going to close here. Not an engulfing candle, but definitely a bullish close for the week. Right, new week opening up here. We can clearly see that we're making higher lows than this low here. Even after the rate cut came in, we didn't really get much action. So the high time frame here to me still kind of looking not so good, right? We're getting maybe a weekly potential cross up here. It didn't cross just yet, but I mean that just looks like it looks like it wants to cross. Right, we got a weekly cross here in August. We've been making positive momentum. The MACD here is kind of trending up here a bit on the weekly. Our high time frame monthly, I would still say that looks pretty bearish on the high time frame, like the monthly chart. 2 week time frame here looks like it may be curling around. Yeah, so paying attention to this weekly time frame, I think, is really the key. We do have a bit of this divergence that's coming in here on Tether, which could cause maybe some trouble in the markets. Looks like. Yeah, we'll see if this actually materializes and plays out. So that's the whole point, right? So you can see this stuff on the chart, but this is Tether dominance, and it may not end up playing out exactly as seen. We are getting a daily signal here on Tether. We are getting a green wave trend dot here clipping long on Tether. So this is probably not going to bode too well for the crypto assets right now. It does appear that way. We are below this major level of resistance here. We can see that these lows are higher than the lows back here from January. Showing a bit of that accumulation happening. Until there's a real big rejection or a real big price action candle to lead me to believe we're going to see that. That daily, that 2 day, that 3 day, that weekly all don't look very, very good for crypto. Can change on the dot. Like I said, the monthly time frame, I would still say looks bearish. I don't have anything really bad to say on the high time frame here. The monthly chart is still ticking down here. So the monthly should, overtake some of these lower time frame that we're looking at here, but we could still see some chop. We are technically below this major trend line of support. Okay, we want to see this continuation downwards, obviously, for us to see an altcoin season or any sort of rally. And so we're really closely monitoring this. This does look like a bear flag after a breakdown right on the RSI. We would love to see this, this type of thing on the Tether dominance chart. I think we will see that. It just might take some months to materialize into that with these rate cuts coming and the stock market making new all-time highs and the rotation into ETH, right? Those high time frames to me still look pretty strong for upside in the market. But shorter term here, it does look like we could get some chop or some downside action maybe over the course of the next 10 days or so. We'll see how this plays out, but it does seem like that that's a possibility. All right, and so just be mindful of that. And we did close a bullish candle on the weekly here. We didn't take out last week's candle, so we are technically making lower highs or whatever. But we need to take out this floor. That's what we need to do. We need to take out this floor, and then we ultimately need to take out this 3.81% region to really see fireworks in this market. And I think everyone's kind of waiting for that. We've all been kind of waiting for that. This kind of blow off top move that we're all waiting for this major alt season to materialize. And this could be how this plays out. Because if we look at Bitcoin dominance, we're not really far along here on the Bitcoin dominance, trail to go all the way down. I think that this will eventually go all the way down here. It just might take some time. All right. And so if you're sitting in spot positions, I think just continue doing that. If you're getting some deep retracements or some swing lows with bullish divergences on higher time frames, I think those are probably good areas to DCA your positions. Not financial advice. This still is pointing straight down on the monthly chart. This looks like eventually this is going to come down. No doubt about it. The monthly here, the 2 month also ticking down, right? So Bitcoin dominance is going to roll over here eventually, probably over the course of the next 3 to 6 months. Historical values now fear 45. Okay. So there you go. The market's in fear, and Bitcoin's nowhere near its. I wouldn't say nowhere near, but it's not near its ATH right now. So this could be an interesting week. I do think that Tether chart is a little bit scary there on the the shorter time frames, like the daily, the 3-day, maybe the weekly chart. But the higher time frames, it still looks like it's going to come down. So I think that that's really the moral of the story, is to keep that in mind. Your dollar index here, I would say it's, let's kind of take a look at this again. Maybe I have this drawn incorrectly. Yeah, I think that this is a rising wedge here on the dollar index, and this to me is actually broken down, or is attempting to break down here. We had a the rate cut news here that kind of pushed this back up. It's basically back testing this rising wedge right now. And so that's kind of where we're at. We pin barred off the range low. Yeah, that's a little scary. We don't really want to see pin bars coming up. Whatever. It's just we could end up doing something like this where we get the dollar index to come back up to the 100 level and test that, and then get rejected, and then finally break this support. It could even throw us for a loop, and we could see something like the 103s to fake breakdown and then rip back into the range. That would definitely cause some volatility in the market and probably some downside action, unless it's correlating more so to gold, because I think gold looks pretty toppy up here. It's got on quite a run. You got these weekly band deviations here on gold. Gold probably still has some more room to run. You can see that it could still end up making bearish divergence here, and that's pretty much where gold's at. It could maybe eventually get to this $4,000 region if it takes out this fib extension here. But gold, man, what a run for gold! Man, that's pretty nuts chart, breaking north out of a rising wedge there. That's that happens like 55% of the time. So there you go. Rising wedges can break north. We should probably look at the S&P. It is I would say in this parabolic trajectory here, we have the next major fib extension here around the 700 region. Future is down a little bit, 0.12%, not a big deal. But like I said, if the dollar index is going to try to higher and the USDT dominance is going to tread higher a little bit. We're going to see some volatility. It's possible we could see Bitcoin come down a bit. That wouldn't really surprise me at all if it did that. While we did just put in, kind of a weekly doji candle here. Okay. And so if we do end up seeing some of that follow through, it could resolve itself down to, these levels again. This major support here around, 113s, and maybe back to, if it really gets violent, we could be looking at, bottom of the range stuff here at 108, 107, something like this, where we come back down and maybe double bottom here. It could get steeper than that too. We could end up breaking the low and maybe tagging this trend line if it really, gets violent on the selling. And it wouldn't shock me if we did come down to tag this 100 level. A lot of people don't think that that's going to happen. Anything's possible. With the Tether chart, the way it's looking, it looks like we're going to see some volatility here, and we do have the weekly, in our favor for momentum on Bitcoin here. So we'll see how much volatility we really end up getting. But no cross up just yet. You can see on the MACD here. Our 3-day here did cross up. We could see, barely putting any positive momentum there on the 3-day. The 2-day here probably going to start rolling over a bit. We are above the zero line on the MACD. Okay, so that's good. But we're starting to build this negative momentum. Your daily stochastics here, tick down a bit with that weekly candle coming in there, not so strong. We tagged basically 118,000. I had spoken about that being a level that we'd probably come to test before they maybe want to load up on some more shorts up there and maybe bring it back down into this pocket where we then could see maybe a retest. I hope we actually end up making a higher low. This 112 region would be pretty bullish to see something like that where there's reaccumulation up there. All right. I just vomited. Oh, man. All right. Well, that sucks. All right. We're going to cover ETH. So ETH, just meandering in this range. It's kind of really stuck up here. It can't really do too much until, momentum kind of flicks back up on the 2-day and 3-day time frames. The daily here is kind of getting this reset. The 2-day chart here also, still holding bullish control zone territories, but you can see that we're losing relative strength a bit. Your 3-day momentum is pointing down. Your weekly momentum is really the key here. Okay, it's not really bearish divergence because we didn't actually make a new high, but you can see that it's just making lower and made a lower high on the relative strength index. And it's up there. It's still sitting up there at 71. So it's pretty heated. A reset on the momentum here would probably be not such a bad thing to see for ETH to come back down or retest, 3,800s, this region here. Something like that. We could see something like this for this major support level right here to be retested. We might even pierce through, to like 34 or something. I don't. It just depends on how violent the selling becomes. I hope I'm wrong and there is no selling, but it just seems like it's a pretty high probability that we do see some sell pressure come in here with the dollar index ticking back up and Tether dominance ticking back up and stuff like that. So that's pretty much the long and the short of it here. These areas up here are probably low risk shorts for the movement down to 37, 3,800. We're even getting these, counter trend reversals on the weekly time frame. Those are usually pretty strong when you get those up there. So yeah, we got a double up here last time, and this resulted in a move down and then a bounce up to retest the high, and then it just got wrecked and went all the way down, and then, anyways, so that's kind of what the charts are telling me. It looks like we're going to see some downside here over the course of the next maybe week or two. It could be longer. I don't know. But we'll see what kind of price action we get, because it's really all about the price action we get. Even though momentum, can point down on these time frames, if we don't really see sell pressure come in, then we just kind of glide in those ranges and make higher lows, and then bids start coming in, right? Because it's like hyper bullish stuff, right? Because if we go to I don't know, the quarterly chart here on ETH, there's no way you can sit here and tell me that this looks bearish. Okay, the quarterly time frame here is just kind of just points straight up. It's coming right out of the oversold territory on the quarterly time frame, and this to me looks like it's got a major move ahead of it. This could be in 3 to 6 months. Okay, and so that's kind of what I'm getting at. We could see a bit of this drawdown here over the course of the next couple weeks. Maybe, I would say the next couple weeks, where this thing maybe just, like I said, this 3,800 region, $4,000 region, you probably don't want to deviate too much below those previous high regions. We are still kind of, sitting up in this little pocket right up here for now, because Bitcoin hasn't really dumped really hard just yet. So let's look at the ETH Bitcoin chart. I think that'll give you a little bit more of a clue. So middle of the range here on the ETH Bitcoin pair. It's really just not an equitable place to be rolling, Bitcoin for ETH. Looks locally hitting a resistance on the weekly time frame, and we can do something like this where it comes down a bit here on the RSI and makes a higher low somewhere in the bullish control zone and goes back up like that. Because like I said before, the high time frame, quarterly time frame is just bouncing off, neutral, and that was that 3-month run that we just went on. So I don't know how you can think that that's topped out. I don't think it's topped out. Just time, man. That's all this is. It's just time. This to me looks pretty bullish here on the quarterly time frame. When this pointing straight up like that is telling you, even last time we got it was April 2020 when we actually crossed up. Okay, that took almost 2 years to play out, a year and a half to play out. Nice, dude. Yeah, time after time. It's a good song. Anyways, yeah. So to me, it just high time frame looks great. It's these lower time frames that are going to give us a little bit of a pullback here. Maybe some consolidation. I don't really see anything terrible on these high time. Those high time frame momentums are going to continue to push that ratio up. While it's overbought on the weekly time frame, it's just going to have a consolidation, downsloping consolidation like that because of that high time frame momentum being so strong. Okay, and so that's why I feel like a lot of people get that kind of wrong, where they're like, "Oh, we're just going to crash. The weekly's pointing down." It's not going to be a crash per se. It'll be a correction. It'll be a pullback. People are going to get scared. And it's probably just a buy the dip opportunity, especially on ETH here on the ETH Bitcoin ratio chart. All right, and so that's the long and the short of basically where I would say the general consensus for what the market's doing right now. I would say short term, downside action here, higher time frame, higher prices is what I'm seeing. Okay, even if we were to look at Solana, everyone's so bullish on Solana, and no discredit to the asset. It's performed extremely well this cycle, and it continues to perform extremely well. Coming into, all-time highs here against the dollar pair. And again, with the monthly momentum, that looks like it's got some room to run, man. It's still got some room. We got a full swing up here, and you're at all-time high prices with this momentum down here still. You're not overbought on the monthly. You're not crossing down here. You're giving some nice momentum waves coming in. Okay, so the weekly here is getting a bit extended. You didn't cross down here on the weekly yet. You're still sitting up here. Even if you were to get a bit of a drawdown and come down to the 80 level and maybe bounce here or something and just stay overbought on the weekly time frame, that is going to eventually send you into price discovery. May not be this week, right? May not be next week. Okay, it may be sometime in mid-October or November where you eventually see that. Okay, and that's kind of what I'm getting at here. The next couple of weeks could be a bit of pain in the market. Okay, it sucks because we've just been dealing with boring and pain the whole time with most of these assets. So, but I unfortunately don't have any other things to really say that are applicable to what we've been talking about here. I just think that this is just the way it's been, and until something really changes on these charts, there's not really much I can kind of do about it. So feel free to drop whatever tickers you guys want to look at. We got a measly 6 people on the stream tonight. Appreciate all you guys continuing to tune in to these boring markets. Go for it. XRP, sure. All right, so XRP, struggling here with the rest of the market. It looks like you might be drawing down here a bit. Again, your weekly time frame here is ticked up nicely, so you could be looking at a couple days, maybe. I don't know. This doesn't look the best here on the weekly RSI. I mean, it's just neutral up here. It's not really doing anything. Your daily momentum trying to reset. You did kind of set in some lower highs up here. You're probably going to come back down and test the bottom of this range, the 275 level, if we get some selling pressure. I don't see why that wouldn't happen, especially with these lower highs being set in. You can clearly see that it's struggling to make higher highs. So you'll probably come down to test this 275 region. If that doesn't hold, then you're probably going to come back down maybe to 2.25. Basically, wherever you found previous support levels, you're probably going to end up getting some bounces, or maybe trying to put in some sort of low before you eventually try to tick higher on the price. So we'll look at the quarterly chart here on XRP. We do have these white candles that are in, these overbought candles. And, last time we had this major pennant breakout, we had 1, 2, 3 quarters basically of XRP, kind of making its move. And so I would say this looks a bit almost overdone. If you look at ETH, it's down here at the bottom on ETH. So to me, XRP kind of looks like momentum is already kind of exhausted. You're sitting at an 80, right? Okay, I mean, maybe you get this last break up to the 100 level or something, but you're already, in my opinion, you're already in high risk territory up here on XRP. A lot higher risk than a lot of other cryptos, I would say. Not to sound bearish or anything on XRP, but just from a risk standpoint, you're already at the all-time high here. Of course, everybody wants to see, major price discovery moves. And I think you will get it. It's just, if you just look, this momentum still looks fine. It's still making higher highs on momentum on the quarterly, but you can just see that you're losing kind of this momentum here on your stochastic RSI. And your 2-month here is kind of flatlining. You haven't crossed down yet. You're monthly bouncing. So you got probably another major move left in this thing, maybe to the $7 or $11 region. I don't know where that's going to end up, but, you kind of get the drift, right? It's already up there on its momentum waves. It's probably got another major move left in it, is what I'm saying. And that's really it. Yeah, exactly. It could take a few months. That's right. So that's really all I got, folks, for XRP. I was looking at some of these micro caps on virtuals here. I actually took a couple of these trades. This Axelrod coin, I don't know. I mean, these are low cappers. Not the best candle close here for this one, but what I was looking at really was the daily, putting in what looks to be maybe a double bottom. It's tough. It's tough to really trade some of these things right now with Tether dominance going up. We do have a bit of bullish divergence on this one. It does do some decent trading volume. It's a low capper. Just something I'm maybe trying to trade some volatility moves here. These things give some nice volatility. This Aventus token is pretty interesting. They do this thing's going on a run. They do leverage trading for stocks. So like they got like the Mag 7 on their platform, which is definitely going to drive some retail people in from the stock market to like leverage trade that stuff. I didn't take this trade because, well, I can't really buy a chart that looks like that. But yeah, this almost $1 billion market cap, 2.62 in FDB. It's probably probably gonna do pretty well. Another one is that Aster coin that Binance or CZ kind of invested in, which is like the hyperliquid competitor that's doing pretty well right now. Again, I just cannot buy tokens that just launch like that. I have no data. It's like just straight up gambling. And I'd rather buy a virtuals coin that I have some data on, that I can just trade some divergence or something, like this low cap one right here, for example. You've clearly got some daily bullish divergence here going on this chart after this big dump, right? You're going to probably make a higher low, the highest low you've ever made on this chart. And you're going to make some, hidden bullish divergence, and you're probably going to get a nice bounce off this. And that's maybe all it gives. I'm not trying to stay in these low cappers unless they really just start to form some nice patterns or structures. I'm just going to be trading a lot of these divergences, these oversold divergences on these assets. And that's it. That's kind of what I'm doing to trade some of this stuff. This Benki coin on Avalanche is interesting. It attempted to break like a couple days ago and then just got rejected here. But if you look at this is a lower cap coin, but it's actually a pretty big utility coin on Avalanche. Avalanche is looking pretty strong out of the L1s right now, so I'm talking about it. Here's this Aventus thing. I was checking this out. You can see. You can trade the equities market. You can trade Coinbase. You can trade Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Tesla, Google. All right. I mean, they don't really have that much volume on here. This thing just opened or just started, but it's pretty cool. This platform is pretty cool, I will say. You can trade gold, silver, and oil on here. 50x, 100x leverage. That's nuts, dude. Like, people are just going to get wrecked on this platform. So, yeah, I mean, if they're going to get wrecked, they're probably going to be continuing to be a profitable platform, which maybe good to just own the casino, right? Which is why I was checking that chart out, but I just can't buy something that looks like that. It's just up only. And I have no idea where this coin's valuation is going to be at. So I just have no idea. So cool. It looks like people are dropping off the stream. Maybe this is too boring. I forgot what I was actually going to look at. Oh, I was looking at that Banky coin, right? I was giving you guys some insight about that. If you go to DeFi Llama and you kind of check out Avalanche here. So if you go to DeFi Llama, look at Avalanche, you can see the TVL is like, basically ticking up here, maybe even might go parabolic here soon. And Banky is the second largest protocol on Avalanche. And if you look at the TVL of Banky, you can see that this thing is about to break its all-time high here from December of 24. All right. And then you want to look at, if you look at the price chart, you can see that it's really just, man, it's the bottom of the range, and just looks like maybe a nice swing trade setup here with the weekly RSI just crossing bullish here, 54. And the monthly is, extremely oversold with a bunch of divergence, right? This is ticking up here with the price coming down like that. And you got a cross up here on your monthly. That to me screams that this is probably going to be higher prices in the next, 3 to 6 months with the way that looks. And, you can just trade the range. I'm not saying it's going to go all the way back up there. It could, if it gets that kind of volume. But I would say that this is a double bottom. You're probably looking at to go at least test this neckline here at like 3 cents. And if you do break that neckline, then, you got a lot further upside to go on it. Probably about a 4x move up to this neckline break, which would take you back up pretty close to these 13-cent regions. Like that's a pretty major move, right? Like a 14x trade set up there, right? So you could strategically, take a position on something like this, stop loss below the all-time lows. And I think that looks pretty solid. Yeah, pulse assets. We can take a look at some pulse assets. I think Wrap Bitcoin here is trying to find its floor after this nice little rally it had. Just came back retesting this. It's very beautifully in this long-term channel. We have a bit of daily bullish divergence down here on the RSI that's coming in with this lower low on price with the higher low on the relative strength index. We'll see how this goes because if the whole market's going to continue down, then these aren't going to really perform that well, right? So this is a bit of a concern is the 3-day momentum here. It is oversold, but if this doesn't really tick up, then we could see continued oscillation down. We did kind of break this bullish control zone here on Wrap Bitcoin. We're sitting neutral or around neutral here on the RSI. So the hex chart was interesting to me. I picked up a position in it. The OG hex, it's probably pulling back now. That's fine. But if you go to like the really high time frame, like the monthly chart, on something like this is kind of what I'm looking at. It's in this major squeeze down here, just resting along the neutral territory. It looks like it's rounding out on the monthly here. And so that to me is very interesting because once this does maybe pick up some steam, it looks almost exactly like a descending broadening formation. And these break to the upside 72% of the time. And, these resolve back to the top of the pattern. How long this takes, I don't know. But you can clearly see even on the bubble risk indicator here, you can see that it's just poking its head out here after being depressed for such a long time. It looks like it's maybe starting to wake up a bit, but we'll see what kind of correction we get here and what this market decides to throw at us. It just continues to throw us curveballs. So it's not broken out right now on the monthly time frame. It looks like we did get actually a weekly candle break. We did get a weekly candle break, not above the super trend though, but above the trend line, we did get a weekly candle break here. We just need to see some follow through on that. Otherwise, it just doesn't mean anything. All right. Cool. It looks like a bottom is being formed here. It's kind of what I'm seeing on this chart. Yeah, weekly momentum is looking like ticked up. 2 week here, clipping 2. 3 week here, ticked up. I mean, there are weekly, 2 week, 3 week clipping. I mean, like that's got to be powerful stuff. You can talk about BNB, sure. Not really too much to talk about, right? Didn't it just make new all-time highs? Yeah, it's just in a long-term, beautiful structure. Tagging a fib extension. Probably pulls back a bit there with the whole market pulling back a little bit. You know, looks like we just kissed it, right? Putting a nice little doji candle there. Looks like a reversal candle, actually. What do you want to talk about it? Where it's going? Right now, it looks like it's probably going to come back down to like $900. Especially if we're going to get some volatility down here, which I think we are. I don't know if it's the cycle top. I don't think it's the cycle top, but I think it's you know, a fib extension up there that we're tagging. It's just coming out of like a 4-year structure, man. So if you only think it's going to $1,100, then I guess that's it, then, right? I don't know. Could be. Looks like the monthly RSI is tagging 80. You don't have any bearish divergence on the monthly time frame like we had here in 2021, where we made this high, we got this reset and a lower high. That usually marks a top. Okay. This was this, and then the second push for the lower high, and that was it. So we're in this first impulse up. I think it even can still push higher on the monthly time frame here. So just started to break out, man. Just started to break out. It's BNB we're talking about. We're not talking about some S coin. This is like a blue chip asset. So we'll see what kind of correction we get. I think it'll probably suck for a bit here, a couple weeks. Feels like. So hang tight, boys and girls. We're in for another ride. Unfortunately. But if we look at like total 3, excluding stable coins and Bitcoin and ETH, you can see a beautiful bull flag here. All right. So these are your altcoins pretty much. And this monthly has a lot of room to go. Has a lot of room to run. Even the 2-month here looks pretty bullish. That's that looks pretty good, man, on the 2-month. All right. I think we do have an alt season coming here in the next few months. So stay tuned for that. This is probably going to break out of this flag. All right. Look at your MACD. Does that look bearish to you guys? This looks like it's going to do something pretty nutso. All right. Stay tuned. Don't get too bearish. Don't get too bearish. The quarterly is also ticked up in an oversold territory. So just sit tight. Okay. I think eventually we are going to break this this structure. So something like that will happen. Yep. I know we need Tether to stop doing what it's doing right now. We need this market to give way for us to see that. Well, for now, I would say some short-term bearish action, and that's it. Stack some cash right now while we wait to buy dips, I think. All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream tonight. I know it's kind of a bit miserable to talk about when we get these kind of pullbacks in these markets, but it's got to be discussed and it's got to be known. So you guys know that I did warn you ahead of time here, and you guys know what's about to happen. All right. It looks like a poopy. Looks like poopy. Yep. Looks like it's all going to come down a bit. All right. No problem, guys. Y'all have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week. And hopefully this this drawdown here isn't too drastic. Probably just get smashed here into this like 4.5% region and then just smack this thing all the way back down. All right. Well, catch you guys next week. And I think we got, maybe a couple weeks of drawdown here, it looks like, potentially. All right. Stay tuned. See you guys next week.